How are
So
you?
I'm fine. I'm fine, thank you. I'm doing very well. So I look forward. Have you got the Word document I sent across?
Do
Oh,
I need to go through it? Because I was hoping.
just so you can have it for reference. So when I ask you questions, you know at which point we're at.
Yeah, I mean, you could ask them, and then I was thinking it might end up that I answer a few questions, and I just go off point. But
Okay,
because
whichever
I
way.
do that, my kids know that I always do. So,
Yeah, no problem at all. Let's see if we have any attendees on yet.
well, I think,
So we have one attendee on so far.
oh, who's that?
Late a bit early. A lady called Blessing.
Oh, I love Blessing.
Yeah, hi Blessing.
Hey, Blessing, how are you?
Even though we can't actually hear
But
from her.
you can't hear us. Oh no.
Send a message if you would like to send a message,
Yeah, I
Blessing.
will do. I'll say hi to
You
her.
can receive messages on the chat.
So, Blessing is an incredible lady that you should get to know. Both of us have been Technovation mentors
Oh, I see. Okay,
and
fantastic.
girls in tech, and she's really a rising star.
Oh, lovely. I'd like to hear about rising stars.
I know. So that's why I asked her to join in because I really would love you to meet her. So
Okay.
I don't know if she's not replied. Oh,
Oh, she's replied now. Just
mm,
the
neat.
document.
So basically, one of the things that's really great um, for this whole session is it is important that we create a community, and I love the fact that you've started this, Susan. I think what you offer, um, not just girls and boys, everyone, the youth of today, real motivation to actually go to a community if they need support. Because,
Exactly.
we when when I grew up, I had none of this. Firstly, we didn't even have social media, so
Yeah.
when you have social media now and what you can do with it, it's the power is quite. We need to use it for the good rather than just, hey, you know what, just do music, and all the fun stuff is great, but I think to have mediums like this to reach out to the youngsters is really important.
Yeah,
um,
definitely.
and I think so for that alone it's really nice that you can do this. I wouldn't have thought of doing that, you see, when I was your age. We didn't have those things.
No, and it's also good to hear from different people's perspectives. Obviously, people have different perspectives on different topics. So have that, open forum to be able to actually express yourself and not feel like that's kind of what has actually engendered interest in our series so far. So you'll see, I'm sure we've had some emotional moments from a couple of the people that have been panelists, but they've nearly actually been in tears discussing, their background. I think it's the kind of pointed questions that I ask. So that kind of brings maybe like, historic feelings back, your
but
journey.
but it does. I mean, I think most people, when they're reflecting on a journey, um, sometimes I did the same. I interviewed somebody who has achieved a lot uh, in her time because she had to really, break down boundaries and even, deal with things that were really difficult for her. Um, and it's quite cathartic to talk about it because
Mhm.
sometimes but for that you have to push through the pain, and she pushed through the pain, but she said, when you look back at it and you think, I have no idea how I survived, because you know thinking about it now, I must have had multiple breakdowns but not realized it. So remember, in my time, mental health was a taboo. You never talked about it. There
Yeah.
was shame. let alone, culturally, but also on a professional level, there was no chance you would tell anyone, I'm having a mental breakdown, because then you knew you'd lose your job, and
Exactly.
your name would be mud. Now I'm really glad to see that things have changed
Yeah.
dramatically. But we still need to change even more, because it change is slow. It's not quick enough. We haven't really, we're in the 21st century. And I always remember when I was a child, we used to watch Space
Oh, you're
1999.
going into you're going into our content now.
It doesn't matter. No one knows. It doesn't matter. We can just go into it because we can just. But
So
yeah, but I was,
let's make a start. I think we have some more attendees now.
yes.
So
So,
hi and welcome today, everybody. You have joined our investment potential and purpose episode, and today my name is Susan Falola, CEO of JUUBIX Limited, a connecting matching platform that matches ideas, expertise, and investment in a two-sided marketplace, which also offers liquidity for those stakeholders involved. And I have Siddhi here today. Would like to give an introduction about yourself and your background.
hi, I'm Siddhi Trivedi. I'm the CEO of Bewolf Consultancy, co-founder of Beyond Identity, and also the Chief Marketing Officer for Better Eco. So Beyond Identity is my tech startup, which is developing AI-enabled platform that basically enables connectivity and communication uh, through a very transparent and secure platform. So, for example, for Better Eco, we're creating a basically an open trading platform for agricultural farmers to access their buyers without actually going through an intermediary, so that it allows them to see quite visibly the price that their products are being sold outside of maybe a village in Africa. So we're using blockchain and artificial intelligence to enable that to happen. The blockchain provides the transparency, but also security and trust. So moving forward, one of the things that we want to work towards is creating, or bridging this inequality and creating inclusive communities where people are actually being paid what they should be paid without
Yeah.
being exploited. So that's me in a nutshell.
Fantastic. Well, let's move on to our first question. So, I would like to know a bit more about your background initially. So, where I would like to start is where were you born?
So my background is interesting. So I consider myself to be a global citizen. I am Indian origin. I was born in Tanzania in Mwanza, and then spent some nursery time in Zambia, and then infant school in Nigeria, India,
Oh,
and the UK. So I think I qualify quite well as a global
fully
citizen.
rounded, worldly. That's what we like to say.
Yeah.
Um, so, moving on to our next question is, what do your mum and dad do for a living?
So, so obviously, my father used to work abroad a lot, and he was an accountant, a chief financial controller. But my mother she was married at 16, and when she was married, she literally, didn't have any qualifications, uh, professional qualifications, but she is a professional carer. So in those days, in the sort of 50s, she was expected to not just marry my father, but his parents and five younger siblings. And his youngest sibling was only 7 years old when my mother married. So she literally brought up the whole family, the extended family. And then as she's grown older, she's just become this incredible role model for me and my children and all the other grandchildren. So, you know, I think on a professional level, she has shaped the way I think about caring for the community, because she cares, she shares, she's unconditional and
Yeah.
non-judgmental. And I think that I always say to my mum, you know, she's 83, that you know, she basically was the head of the family. She's kept she's been the glue to this family, and she's kept everyone together, the extended families, everyone. And you know, that's something that I go back to and refer to these famous sayings at the moment, where all the countries that have dealt really well through COVID have all been led by females.
Yeah, that's one significant factor during this COVID series. Um, so moving on to like, who gave you the name Siddhi, and what was there? You know, was there any particular reason behind the name itself?
Well, I don't know the reason why, but I can tell you what my name came from my maternal uncle, my mum's uncle, and he named me Siddhi. So Siddhi actually means perfection and the ultimate achievement. Okay, so I don't think that I was born perfect. In fact, I'm nowhere near perfect. But it comes also from it's part of two areas where it has significance. It's the ultimate achievement in meditation, and also the Hindu god, the elephant god, had married twin sisters, Riddhi and Siddhi. Riddhi means prosperity, and Siddhi means the ultimate achievement and success. And wherever you go in Hindu um, culture or temples, you will see the sign of Lord Ganesh. And whenever you do something really special, like a marriage or open a business, you always thank him and ask him for his blessings. So that's the link with me and him. Do I think that I'm perfect? I'm absolutely the most imperfect person, and I'm sure my kids will vouch for that. But do I strive to be a better person? Yes. Am I there? No. Got a long way to go.
Totally understood. So moving on to our next question. So what was it like, you know, growing up as a child, whether that be, you know, I know you've moved around quite a bit, but how was it like growing up?
So I was thinking about this, and my childhood has been quite interesting, very cosmopolitan. I've had no problems making friends anywhere. In most of the countries I went to school as a child, I had absolutely no problems. The only problems I ever had, funnily enough, is when I went to a convent school for 6 months in India, and I made no friends. In fact, it was the loneliest time I have ever had as a child. And I remember that. So I must have been 5.5, 6. Um, and I used to just remember sitting outside in the playtime just on my own. I don't know if I ever felt happy or sad or just, you know, confused and lost, but I just didn't fit in. And but I think that gave me that started to help me realize what it feels like not to belong, but
Yeah.
also not to fit in. I mean, I was amongst Indians, and it's not like I couldn't speak my mother tongue. I could speak my mother tongue, and I don't know why. I never ever spoke about it, and I just let it go. But you know, when I went anywhere else around the world, anywhere else around the world, I was a happy child. I had loads of friends. You know, in the UK, I never had any problems. So that's something that I haven't quite worked out why that happened. It's quite interesting because I've not thought about that for a long time.
See, I told you our series has been very thought-provoking for the panelist members.
Yeah, absolutely. I've not thought about why I never liked going to India as a child.
Our next question is, what inspired you to choose a career in STEM? So, like, what was
so,
your initial
so
inspiration?
that's an interesting one as well because so a lot of people don't know that when I was younger, when I was growing up here, our community had hosted the Indian cricket team, and so I must have been a teenager then. And famous cricketers such as Sunil Gavaskar, Sandip Patil, and many others had come to our city, and they organizers wanted people to just help host. So they invited, people to come along wearing Indian clothes. And I was a teenager and I used to love wearing my saris. So anyway, really enjoyed it. Didn't really know about cricket. In fact, still find it boring. But at the end of that, I got asked to model.
Oh,
And
nice.
some of the people said, hey, so they went to my parents and said, hey, you know what, she could have a really good career in modeling and also acting. So the other thing was, I loved drama, absolutely loved it. And I thought, yes, that's my career. And my parents just said no.
Okay.
So
Sounds like my
so my career in STEM actually wasn't something that I wanted. It was just something that I had to do because, I had to do. But I was lucky that I had a fantastic physics teacher who was not just funny, engaging, but he made science really interesting. So even though at A levels I wanted to do English and French, I had to do physics and chemistry and biology. So it sort of thought, I just ended up doing that, not because it was my passion. I just ended up doing it, which is interesting because when I went to university, I got really interested into forensic toxicology. And that's what I really wanted to do. But after I graduated with my degree in pharmacology, I had a master's position. But, and I had it all funded, I had a scholarship. And then I had to go to India because my father's mother was dying. And I'm not very close to her, rest in peace. But I wasn't really close to her. I still had to go. We had to go with a one-way ticket. And from July to October, I was stuck in India because I was so ill. I mean, I was so ill. I was there for 4 months. When I got all my clothes stitched and I came back to the UK, I'm not kidding. The clothes looked like dolls' clothes because I'd lost so much weight and I couldn't fit into them again. But anyway, so I lost my place for my master's, and I ended up joining the pharmaceutical industry, where I spent the last, first 10 years of my career there. So my career in STEM hasn't been like focused, and it's not what I've always wanted, but I've had to just pivot. But I think that's really good because most of us should learn to adapt. And during COVID, every one of us has had to learn to adapt to a totally different way of doing things, particularly without actually planning. And
exactly.
These are really crucial skills that maybe you learn out of necessity and hunger and no choice.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I know this question is not listed in our question, but I wanted to ask you a further question to that initial question. Was there some cultural aspects in terms of, you said that they would prefer you to do technology
Oh, absolutely. Come on, let's not beat about the bush. It's very cliche. Everyone who is of Asian background, you're either a doctor, a lawyer, or a computer engineer. That's it. And if you want to be anything other than that, you're frowned upon. Art, oh my gosh, no. Acting, no way. Modeling, but these are the essential skills that actually only talent can make you successful. Science, you can learn. You don't have to be talented. I'm sorry to say that, but you can learn that. You can't learn to be funny. You can't learn to sing beautifully and be the best artist, because these are real talents. And I feel that on a cultural basis, it was never pushed, because just the way things are in India, the arts and the theatre is very competitive, so you're not guaranteed a job, so people don't want you to go into that area, whereas you can always make a living out of counting and programming or something. So
exactly.
I do understand that, but I embrace both, because for me, I have the deepest amount of admiration for anyone who is artistic, because I don't have those skills.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for that. Moving on to our next question. Have you received any racism or prejudice during your career? If so, how did you deal with this?
So, I'm not going to beat about the bush. I think any person of color has experienced it. And if and not only just here, I mean, I said I didn't fit in when I was in India, right? The point isn't that have you experienced racism, have you experienced a form of marginalization, and have you felt left out, segregated? Yes. Has anyone ever called me negative words? No. Have I been stereotyped? Yes, probably more within my own community. You will always get it. Have I seen it happen to others? Yes, because I grew up in the 70s, and the UK was a very different place in the 70s, but there was a lot of violence, just racial hatred. We don't have that open racial hatred. Now it's probably a little bit more subtle. Which one's better? I don't know. But neither of them are acceptable. Both are hurtful. And because I've grown up with it, that's probably why I'm so passionate about making a point of building a cohesive community, because I've seen it happen. At that time, there was no community to support. And now I've got the power to do that. Could I do that through a corporate? Never. Can I do that through building a community outside of corporate? Absolutely. Because, look at what you're doing. You're building a community. And there's more people like you and me now than ever. And there are more platforms to access this, inclusive community. And I think the more we do this through these media, I think we can really marginalize the negativity of racism. We're never going to get rid of it. And the reason we can't get rid of racism is because stigma and cultural behavior and habits are hard to break. However, what I do is I choose who I make friends with. I surround myself only with the people who have the same values as me. And the most importantly is I'm continuing to build an inclusive community. And that doesn't stop me. When people give me negative vibes, you know what? Because I feel good about myself and I feel supported by the people I surround myself with, I don't let it get to me. And I want to make sure that everyone who feels that way can have a community like that. And that's why I love what you're doing, Susan, because it is because of what you're doing that we can actually fight it in a different way.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to touch on that. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of people creating ecosystems. I'm sure there's more than a gazillion ecosystems out there that are being built. But what is the actual value? What's the incentivization to stay within the ecosystem that you're a part of? So let's say you join the ecosystem today. and the values that the ecosystem had was why you initially joined. But then how does that remain consistent throughout the whole journey while you're participating? So that's kind of where JUUBIX obviously wants to incentivize users to participate based on liquidity, so liquid
Yeah,
networks
I mean,
actually being created.
you know, what you've done is you put a value to connections, which is great. You know, it's the next stage, it's the next level. Whereas where I've come from is I'm just, you know, trying to create a community that cares,
Yeah,
right? But now you're saying we care, but we want to give that leg up that is going to give economic benefit, which is, you
yeah.
know, that's really smart move.
It's people like yourselves that have incentivized me to create a solution that actually would help your existing businesses and networks to actually grow exponentially. So that's
But more importantly, you're also helping the next generation. For me, that's more important. The next generation need role models like you to show the way, because you can connect with them better than
yeah.
I can, because I can't connect with my kids as much as you'd be able to connect with my kids, for example.
Listen, you haven't seen that side of me yet.
Yeah, I'm sure there is.
Moving on to our next question. Do you believe that things have got better or worse in regards to inclusion of both genders within the workplace?
Rather than saying whether it's gone better or worse, what I can say is there's more noise. There are more opportunities to talk about it. We didn't have those in my day. You know, if we weren't happy and we felt aggrieved, you know, you only had a grievance procedure. You never ever got a chance to talk about it outside. And the moment you did, you got sacked, right? That was it. So is it better? In a way, no, because we're still talking about the same issues, right? Is it worse? No, but can we do a lot better? We can, because now more than ever, I mean, what was so great about, I'm not on TikTok, but wasn't it brilliant to see what the teenagers have done about TikTok and Trump's campaign? Come on, my day, we wouldn't have never thought of doing something like that. They sabotaged his whole campaign, which was great. That's the power of the youth, and that's what you guys are doing that we didn't do. So that's got to be better, right?
So
For
my perspective is actually to have a conjunction of both. So obviously the youth, they have inspiration, they have vitality, they have energy, but then obviously, you know, the older generation also have, you know, experience, you know, a level of experience that they can actually be able to inform the youngsters before they make the mistakes that we potentially did when we were at that stage. So actually collaboratively putting those both values together actually creates, you know, much more much more participation on both sides, because now you're incentivized to actually work with somebody that has all the energy and all the you know, ideas, but then actually you can actually interpret that with your expertise.
you're right. I think you know, cross fertilization of thoughts is very important, and I think that's something good. I think you guys, the youth, have got more energy. Uh, they've got more passion. We, our generation. So you know, one thing that I haven't even touched upon is, for the longest time, I had imposter syndrome. You know, I never ever thought I was good enough.
Yeah.
And that was because wherever I was always having to work 3 to 4 times harder than my male colleagues just to get somewhere. And so I always thought, you know what, that guy never has to work hard and he gets the same salary as me. But
Yeah.
I'm having to work 3 times harder. I have to prove 3 times more. I have to be 3 times better just to get some form of, hey, you know what, she's all right. And I think now I look around and I think, of course, I come across women, younger women, who are still suffering from imposter syndrome, and we have to deal with that. We have to get rid of that, because less guys. I don't know very many guys who think that. I just meet, every other woman I know has gone through it in my era, and that has to be nipped in the bud straight away first, because you guys have got the generation now. I am so optimistic, and super, super, proud of some of the stuff that's coming out from your generation. It's been inspiring. We didn't have, we didn't know about role models like this when we were growing up. We read, one, we didn't have social media, but two, we actually, I don't think we were pushed to really embrace it or feel empowered. And that's why, I come back and I think the next 2-3 decades are going to be really exciting for you guys. The youth
I
is,
totally agree.
youth power is amazing.
I see a lot of changes being made in education, especially from a digital perspective. And I think that will also harness, like you said, the new age, the new generation to be able to excel very much more so than actually having to, sit cross-legged in the classroom, which obviously now, because their minds are full of ideas and they've got all of this energy, they can't actually, actually sit in one place for too long. And it's the same with the adults. So the whole point of the WeWork concept was to actually decrease mental health. I think we touched on that earlier. So obviously, what about mental health for children? We're telling them, do this, do that, and we're not giving them that freedom of creativity that is actually stopping a lot of youngsters from excelling from a very young age. So if we're able to introduce that and take out the ageism, we really would be able to support them really and engage with them more better.
And not just that, I think just normalizing mental health is a really big issue. We've got to work towards making it, it's all right to have a mental health day off. Also have a day off because you've got period pains. We can't even talk about that. All the taboos, we can now talk about. Our ancient cultural traditions prohibit us from talking about basic problems that women face on a daily basis. What was it? Somebody said, "Oh, women have been having babies for centuries. What's the big deal?" Yes, but women are dying. Women are dying giving birth because they're losing blood. Or what are we doing to support them? We're not.
Yeah.
So the more we have empowered voices from girls, the better.
100%. So moving on to our next question. What have been your sorry about that.
Sorry.
What have been your highlights whilst working in technology? Are there any highlights that you'd like to see?
So the one thing, and I'm sure you've seen this, Susan, that in the tech space, whilst we look on the flip side, we still don't have enough. I think in the 80s we had more girls going into computer science, for example, than we do now. Yeah, that's quite a shocking stat, by the way. But putting that aside, what I see is the highlight of being in STEM is now there's never been a more exciting time because one, girls are exceeding boys academically.
Yes.
There is a much stronger push to get more girls into university, a stronger push to accountability, big organizations to employ girls as well and women. I think the time is now. If you can learn to code, if you can get into some form of tech, I mean, you just have to look at COVID and see why um, look at, firstly, the sales of Zoom have shot up because people have gone virtual. You look at what are the jobs that you can do quickly and develop something to help and improve the lives of others through tech. You don't have to be a doctor to develop telemedicine. You develop processes and procedures like you've done to include and build an inclusive community. So my highlight for tech in the STEM industry, the last 2 decades have transformed everyone. Early 2000, Apple came along. This decade, you've had also Bitcoin and blockchain. So everything that's completely disrupting normal archaic models that we've taken for granted is all happening in the last 2 decades. It is the most exciting time, to be honest. This is the time to be in tech. This is the time, even during lockdown, you've got opportunities to go and learn a new skill. A free website, if people don't know about it, is edx.com, edx.com, and you can learn new tools, techs, courses for free, which is really worth doing if you've got nothing to do at home.
Exactly. I'm just putting that on the thing. So edx.com?
Yeah, I think it's, edx. edx.com.
EDX, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just sending
It might
that
be
to
.com or .org.
Okay. I'll
Look it up.
to the rest of the attendees. So our last but not least question is, how do you think we can support more women in STEM positions?
I think this is, it needs to start in primary school. We need to start right at the beginning, where one of the things that has been highlighted during COVID is how many families have had laptops, for example, to do homework and homeschooling. When you look at it, you've ignored the poorest communities, not just in the UK but globally. We've just literally just alienated them. We know that we've got 3.8 billion phones around the world. Great. Could we have used those better? Yeah, of course we could. Could we have? How do we engage girls at a younger age? But what's also important is not just girls. We have to also engage their mothers, right? So one of the charities I'm really proud of co-founding is Resume, and the idea behind that is to help mothers who've had career breaks return to work, and giving them the skills and giving them the confidence to go back and reskill themselves. I take the example of my mother. She was 16, she married, she ended up with 4 kids, and then she's ended up with 9 grandchildren, and she's been looking after her in-laws. But there were times when we left home and she was left on her own, and she couldn't educate herself. But what she did do is she actually went off and helped foster children. She would go off and support them, whatever. But had she been given opportunities to retrain and reskill during that time, she would be in a different position now, right? And I think that that's something we need to do. 2 things. One, to get girls into STEM, we need to basically get their mothers involved. And we need to collectively as a community work with them and support them, because there are so many areas you can do. STEM is not computer programming. STEM is not being a scientist. STEM is getting into anything that is technology driven that can change lives. So you can be an artist, you can be a design design thinker, you can be an animator, a videographer, whatever. But whatever you do, get into that. And I think we need to just get girls to think about tech in a different way. Gaming, everything, blockchain is all about gamification, really, right? Tokenizing things. So what can we do as a community moving forward? We can identify opportunities that would help mothers to help their girls and boys. But girls need a role model. Your first teacher is your mother. And if your mother can't hear you read, help you with your maths, she'll say, oh no, you know what, I'm rubbish at it. And all those negative comments are always going to be positively reinforced in your child.
That's very true.
Right?
So I'm just thinking about myself now with my daughter. I'm thinking, oh
yeah,
God.
Yeah, and you shouldn't do that. You should not do that. You should look at, what do I want my daughter to think of me? Somebody who works hard and tries. I can't do this, but I'm going to learn. One thing that I always say is learn to say, I haven't learned to do that yet. And I taught my children never to say I don't like. I would always say, I haven't learned to like that yet. So it's about learning and reframing the way you think. And that's what we have to do, is we need to reach those girls who, and I have to tell you one more thing, is girls are smarter. I'm not being discriminatory, but what I'm saying is they're smarter because they have the ability to multitask. Guys don't have to think of anything but study or anything but themselves. Women are conditioned. We go through periods, we give birth, we do all those things where we're always having to cope with stress and pain, while boys don't have to go through all of that. Since they turn puberty, there isn't, so all of that, we're already made to think differently and made to manage and multitask and also tolerate more. So I think we can really push them harder to get to where we need them to. We just need to give them confidence, which we're not doing.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with your last sentence. I actually wanted to put one more question in before we go into the interactive session, where we will allow our attendees to obviously propose a question to you. I just wanted to ask the question basically pertaining to the overarching topic, which is investment purpose and potential. So, going forward, what do you see the future of investment looking like? And do you see the landscape changing from how traditional investment is being made at the moment?
So this is what I would like to see. I would like to see more women investing in women, number one. I also think that the traditional way of raising funds works for some people. It never works. It's not in favor of women. It's not in favor of women. I'm not sure when it will be, but the non-traditional way of leveraging and raising funds is crowdsourcing, crowdfunding. And once you start building something that is having an impact in the community, then you can go out and raise funds through crowdfunding and let individuals actually buy a share in it. Public shares in the past have always been great and I think that way might be a better way of moving forward for a woman who, firstly, you want to be grilled by a guy who asks you totally different questions to the way he asks a man. No. But can you be different? Yeah. Go out and be completely different. Go out to the public and say, look, $1, one share, or $10, one share, or half a share. But if it's a really good project that is going to help your community, you'd be fool not to invest. And
Definitely.
you've seen that people are willing to give. Look at Captain Tom, right? What did he
Yeah,
raise from his £500 to 32 million, wasn't it?
yeah. I
So
mean,
I
I
think
wanted to go back on.
that's
No, sorry.
something we can look at, and we should probably look more closely at. This is our community. Maybe all of the communities that want to, they all have shared values. Is that the way forward to invest? And you don't have to be greedy. Everything's about equity, and everything's about helping each other.
Guaranteed, definitely. I mean, what if obviously what the use of anonymization? Do you think that this could obviously help promote more inclusion in terms of like connecting with investors? Obviously, make investments being made. Do you think that this could also attract more investment into women?
Absolutely. I mean, once there are some stats that show that there is an increase in investing more in women-led companies, um, but it's still significantly low. It's about 8%, which is nothing of the funds that are raised, 8 to 9%. So can we do something about it? Of course we can. There are lots of people who do that. One of the things that I didn't say is that all my successes in my career in the corporate world have all been down to a man who's opened a door for me. And we're still dependent on men to help us. So, there are loads of men who want to support women. And if you are, looking for funding, then find a
Yeah.
really good role model and a good advisor who
Hmm.
is a man who can help you, as well as women. But we still need men. We can't do any of this yet without a really good, strong, supportive man who's behind us, or should I say, in front of us, opening doors. Women
Yeah,
are doing it. We have more women now in top places, and there are women who invest in other women. But the majority is still, it's still majority men.
definitely. I mean, I had a recent altercation with somebody that we potentially were going to go into partnership together, but he was a male and very aggressive in nature. But I was able to obviously, deal with that by dealing with him in a sensitive way. But I didn't realize that 2 weeks later, it actually affected me emotionally. So it just shows you that even though, as a woman, maybe we kind of like shield the things that happen to us actually does affect us. So it's actually better to actually open up your mouth and say something than actually hold it in. So I think that that really taught me that in future I need to be able to express myself freely because actually somebody else had to come into the conversation and speak on my behalf and actually spoke to the guy in question and said, "You're speaking way too aggressively." So I was like, for that, yeah, in my mind. So when
Yeah,
you said
and
back in women,
to hear this, it's so sad to hear that, and I'm so sorry you had to go through that. There's no need for it. I think one of the biggest things in the power that women have is one, um, we all know that women are risk averse, which means
yeah,
that when we go to the market, we have done more than a guy would have done. We know that because the
yeah,
stats show that. We also know that when we're ready to go to market, we have done enough research. We're really good at going into the detail. Um, and also, when we go out and we take a big risk, the risk is measured
yeah,
because we have lots to lose. The majority of us either have a family or we have our own commitment or we have nothing else. So we have lots to lose. So when people say, oh, yes, you probably got your husband to back you. Well, actually, no. because your husband is there. In a way, you've decided to go on your own because you want to prove to yourself that you can do it, not because your husband's got all the money and he'll give you the cushion. Um, it's it's unlikely a woman entrepreneur would want to do that. A woman entrepreneur is doing it because they're they're spunky, they've got guts, and they want to prove something. And they've probably got a very good idea of what they want to do and how they want to do it. And the only thing that I will say is um, you need to also not just have a very good idea, but you need to surround yourself with a very good team, because that is what's going to take your business to the next level. And that's why investors look at your team. They don't just look at you, but they look at your team. And if they're not convinced with the team, then obviously they're going to say no, right? So I think that moving forward, if you're women led, make sure you've got a really strong team, and that could really help you.
Yeah, definitely. I want to open the floor to some of our attendees and see if they would like to point any questions. Do we have any questions from our attendees today? Maybe just give it a few seconds to see if we have any questions.
Well, who's there? Mukta and Amber, anyone? Hello? Come on, Mukta.
Any questions there? Okay, it seems like we've got two now, I think, here. Oh yes, I'm here. They're letting you know that. Have you got any questions for Siddhi today? Anything that you would like her to highlight on before we close this afternoon? Any experience in Africa?
Well, so let me tell you what. One thing I have to say is innovation in Africa is now really exciting. So the example I'm going to give is Rwanda. Rwanda, the new Wakanda. And the reason why I say that is because it really is, in my opinion, so you may not be around during the genocide 26 years ago. And basically, what happened was, since the genocide, Rwandan government decided they needed to do something about rebuilding the country. The population is something like 12 million, which is small for an African country. And what they've done is they invested millions on building the infrastructure. And the infrastructure is very much building good broadband, 4G and 5G. So one of the things that I've been very, very, very passionate about is building inclusive healthcare. And I'm very passionate about universal healthcare cover. So there are companies such as Babylon Health that have actually started to deliver telemedicine through the smartphone. And there's also a drone company, Zipline, that has helped deliver blood to rural villages to help with postpartum blood loss, save lives for women. So with respect to my experience in Africa, the stuff so we're looking to do some work there with providing a platform to help with monitoring the blood through the platform, an intelligent platform basically, and secure it through the blockchain. Now, on top of that, we're trying to work with different companies. All I've noticed and what I can say is when you go to Rwanda, the government is so much easier to work with than any other African government that we've come across, which is quite interesting. because one, they're dynamic, two, they're progressive, and three, they really are wanting to change the landscape. So it's quite an exciting time. I know that African innovation the countries in Africa are really embracing blockchain. So Nigeria is one, and the other country that I'm trying to help. So in Nigeria, we are also looking to build the better ecosystem. So Better Eco has got a really good relationship with the Nigerian embassy in Berlin, and it's been helping us to take the commodities, the organic produce from African. I think it's I forgot which federation is, but basically there is a consortium with in Lagos and also Abuja, where some of the rural farmers are being able to sell their produce directly to Berlin via the embassy. Again, that's through tech. So there's some exciting times.
Fantastic.
Anything else? Do ask me if you want any more questions. Get in touch with me.
We have loads of questions out for
Oh, so blessing. So building a good network. You know what? I'll be honest. One thing that you learn about yourself is you have to give first. To build a network, first it's about building trust. Never go to somebody and say, what can you do for me? It's, what can I do for you? And that's worked quite well with me, because firstly, I want to know people, and the only way I can know them really well is once I start helping them, and learn how I can help them. The last thing I want to do is say, hey, I LinkedIn is really getting to the point where I just want to take a couple of days off, because I'm always getting messages on people wanting to sell things to me, and they haven't taken any time or interest in getting to know me. And when I find out that actually someone's tried to get to know me and they want to know more about me, and they want to learn how they can help me, I feel, wow, I really want to get to know you. So I've done the reverse. I try and find people that I think, wow, I really like them. I'd love to get to know them. I wonder how I can help them and what I can do. And it's not with a little tag with a bill and an invoice. It's, I want to know more about you.
Yeah.
And as you get to the top, that is what you should be doing, is you need to say, well, who can I help? Right? Why are we always saying, oh, you help me? Well, no. First find out, what do you think that person, one of the things that you learn that through an interview process, somebody will say, why our company? Well, actually find out how you can make that company better. And that's why they should come to you, right?
100%.
And if you offer that off, then you're already, you've given something to someone for nothing. Don't always expect it. So my mother always used to tell me, because she believes in karma, is that the person you help on the street will not be the person who will help you back, but you'll find another person who will help you in the street the same way, but it won't be the same person. And if you progress in your life and you actually work that way, I'm going to help you without actually expecting anything back from you. You'll actually become a better person. B, you actually will find that you build a really good, strong relationship with people, because it's not based on expectations. It starts becoming mutual respect.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with that point that you made there. Another question we have from Mukhtar. He says, a fantastic and important discussion. I wanted to ask, does it matter particularly which market you are in versus how influential the women in this market are?
Um, so I couldn't go into quantum computing and become an influencer, right? I would imagine I need to know what I'm talking about. One of my areas of expertise is health. However, going back to what you've just said, Mukta, I am not an events manager yet. I do host events. Um, but I host based on the knowledge I know. But if I don't know the knowledge, I surround myself with people who have the expertise in that knowledge. So, so one of the things that I always say is, going back to team building, a good team is one that is built of people with different skills, with mutual respect. If you start having overlap of skills and expertise, you dilute that expertise, and you end up, not becoming collaborative, but you become competitive. So if you're going into a field and you want to be an expert in that field, you could learn. I mean, come on, you hear about people going in and thinking they can be master chefs by being amateur, but learning because they've got good skills, and so you can learn. You can become an expert in a different field. You have to learn to become an expert. That you can do anything you want if you work hard, right?
And I think it's based on your agility to learn as well. So obviously some people take longer to learn than others. So
it doesn't matter, but as long as you get there. For me, I always think I hate
don't give up.
I hate these SAT tests for 7-year-olds, and then you put them into groups of ability from the age of 7 or even at 11, when actually, I've got kids who are late bloomers, and I've got kids who really peaked at 11 and then troughed all the way down because, they got lazy or they just peaked. So for me, we're all learning at different paces. This is why I love lockdown, I'll be honest, because, working from home, you can give your child all the work they need to do, and they can do it at their pace when they need to do it. They don't feel like doing maths in the morning, they want to do it in the afternoon, you're letting them do it. But they'll get it done, whether it's, Monday or whether it's Friday. And I feel if we can reframe the way our brains think, right? And our expectations of individuals and ourselves, then we can achieve anything. In fact, we can do whatever we want, really. The only thing I don't think I'll ever be able to do is probably play like Mozart or Beethoven, which I'd love to do, but I would never be able to do that because I am trying. And by the time I do it, I'll be like 80. So there are times there's a period of how long it takes you to get somewhere. I'm just not going to be one of those that I'd love to be.
We have one last final question since we're coming to the end of the session. This is from Ebony. So she wants to refer back to your first point about, how you ended up not choosing your first choice in your career. Do you hold any regrets, and would you advise your children to follow their talents, dreams, or choose smart careers?
So that's a really good question, Ebony, because I have there are 3 boys and 1 girl, and the 3 boys are maths, and my girl, she worked hard, she works hard, she's actually the smartest out of the lot, and I'm not saying that because she's a girl. Well, actually I am. Not listening, so it's okay. But she did really well. She worked really hard. She did really well in her GCSEs, and then the whole family. So that's not me and my husband. I'm talking about the Indian extended family. Were like, great, you're the brightest, you're going to do medicine. And I just said, nope, she's not going to do medicine. She's really good at languages and she wants to do the arts, which is totally bucking the trend in my family, I'll be honest. I was accused of being a bad mother because, I was giving her a dead end career. She followed her dreams. She did English literature. She's done really well. She's still looking for a job. She's done her master's. The other kids landed themselves in great jobs. But, she's happy. And what's more important, you will always find something to do when you're happy. And you will always find, she's really good at painting and she's really artistic and she's really good at languages. So she'll do a bit of here and there. She's not making her millions, but she's really happy. And what do parents want in life for their children? They want them to be happy.
Absolutely.
And independent. And she's all of that. Is she a millionaire? No. But she's happy. She's not a doctor and she doesn't want to be a doctor. And because I didn't want to be, do I have regrets about not doing what I did? No, because when you go into the regrets in your life, you stop yourself from moving forward. And all I've done is I've looked at, okay, so the philosophy in life should be, if one door shuts, the other door opens. Take the door, make what you want, and evolve. What have I done? Because since then, I have changed and evolved like a chameleon. Because all my career breaks have been because of, having children. And each time I've had to reinvent myself. So maybe the fact that my first disappointment helped me to overcome everything else. And if I look at it that way, that's better because I learned at an earlier on to deal with disappointment. And the other thing that I wanted to say here is also learn to deal with failure at a very early age. Mm-hmm. I always tell my children, and I say that now, I never had a single A in my life. I was never an A child. Did I feel like a failure for that? I was maybe made to feel that by not my mum and dad, but all the extended family. But what did I do as I grew older? I actually cut all my extended family out of my community. I built my own community. My own community is the community that I love to hang out with, that have the same values as me, that are more about doing things that are important to me. It's not, my great uncles and aunts and my cousins and those who just literally have a different world, live in a different bubble. My family is the community that I'm part of in my, my city and also my work life. And I choose who I want to work with. I can choose my family now. My extended family is my community and I love them. They are everything I want. My children to look up to, and B, it's what I want for my future because I'm going to live till I'm 100. So,
I love that. I actually missed out one last question. So I think this is from Blessed. She first says, thanks both for a really great discussion. I would like to know how you have built a good network while rising to the top. So she wants to know, how have you done that alongside doing all of the other stuff?
I think I touched on that, Blessing. So one of the things that I built my network was, one, my network started from my first few jobs where I really got on really well with a lot of people that were like me. And, I think my networks came from people who I got on with and I did things for them for nothing. They recommended me to other people. So even now, when I get my clients, I don't go out and advertise. I'm not, all my networks and my clients come from people recommending me. But I'm also very picky. So I don't have like hundreds of clients. I go for very specific clients who have the same values. They're doing something that's addressing the sustainable goals. They're looking at, inclusion. They're, they have the same values as me. And that's the network that I hang out with. And actually, they're all really kind. So if you think that if you're kind, kindness attracts kindness.
Yeah.
And my motto in life is kindness. I don't, I'd rather forego money over friendship, because for me, I can get the money anytime I want, in the sense that I'm not going to go hungry. We're lucky in that way. We don't live in India. We don't live in America. We've got state benefit. Not that I've ever taken it, but I'm just saying, so it doesn't make me like, oh gosh, if I don't get that money, I'm going to starve. So I can afford it in a way. I think that's a luxury, and I've got privilege that I think, I can get away with being kind. And all I've seen is kindness, because my circle of friends and my community is all kind. But the moment I start commercializing it, and then finding that actually it becomes a little bit, it's not fun. It's not fun. I don't like it. Don't get me wrong. I'm quite competitive. You usually are if you're an entrepreneur. But I can be competitive in a different way. I can be competitive in the sense that, I want to be the best. I compete with myself. I don't compete with somebody else. And this one thing, the world's massive, so there's loads of people doing exactly what I'm doing, and we can all share it. There's no big deal. I don't need to say, hey, you know what, I don't talk to my competitors. In fact, you know what, I hang out with my competitors, and we try and work out, how did you do that? Oh, I did it this way. What does that mean? So even when I can't do stuff, I give it to my competitors. I've done it so many times. I don't think my product's ready. You know what? Yours is. Why don't you take the job?
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your insights today, Siddhi. I think they have been actually tremendous, and I think our attendees have been very happy with your sentiments. So,
well, I hope to help, and I love what you're doing, Susan. So you need to get a hold of Mukta and Blessing, because they're doing some stuff that I think you would really enjoy getting in touch with them.
Fantastic. I will do that. Well, thank you for our attendees for attending today, and obviously taking part. And
thanks for joining us.
I hope you all have a nice afternoon. And take care. Thank you.
All right. Take care then. Bye.
Bye. Bye.